Okay. So I think we can start.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Welcome to the latest installment of Grave Crimes. I'm not even going to say podcast anymore because it's not even a podcast only anymore.
YouTube podcast.
Yeah, all that crap. Asked of something. How are you today, Heather? That good, huh? Oh, Lord.
Hello.
Yeah.
Well, so we have people downstairs.
So if you hear other voices, it's not haunted. Maybe not. Today's episode, we are doing a really horrible story.
Yeah, horrible.
Like, really horrible.
So we had to have people over to, like, balance it out.
Yes, and we normally, as you all know, we would do a drink that is somehow pertinent to the topic. Either in name or the area that it, like the story is in or something like that. Well, this was so shitty that we decided to do a happy drink, which is pina colada, because we needed something that made us feel joyful. Because this is really crappy.
It's fucking dark.
Like, I think I said this to you. There are not many things that make me cringe. Like, I don't generally sit there and go, oh God, I can't read this anymore.
Same.
This actually made me like anxious and nauseous and I don't know what else, but it was bad.
Right. So I've worked with kids since I got out of college, and I've dealt with CPS and like horrendous things. This was up there.
Yeah.
This was pretty
This is
fucking terrible.
This is worse than the Donner Party.
This is fucking terrible. Yeah, because so many people knew about it.
Well, yes, and I think with the Donner Party, it was self-preservation. It was survival, at least to some extent.
Yes.
So there was
no reason for this.
No.
This was pure, straight up, 100% abuse.
Yes.
Fucking terrible.
Yes. I could just talk about aspects of what made this so horrible because there are so many. And as I said to you earlier, so I started writing up all my notes and I got like 6 pages and then I went, oh, well, screw this crap because there's so much.
Yeah.
Just about the crime itself.
Right.
And like, I feel like you have to know, the background of the people to understand the circumstances.
Right. And honestly, normally I look at like the abusers.
Yeah.
And like, to try and understand them. It didn't even...
I mean... Well, we should just probably get into it.
We should. This is Sylvia
Likens.
Likens.
I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. It's a relatively easy name, you would think.
Indianapolis.
Yes.
Indiana.
She was born on January 3rd, 1949, just to give you some time context, I suppose. Her parents were carnival workers, which I thought was kind of funny and cute and interesting.
Same.
I also thought this was really weird. She was the middle child between 2 sets of fraternal twins.
Yes.
So there was Daniel and Diana, who were 2 years older than her, and Benny and Jenny.
Benny and Jenny.
Benny and the Jet. Oh, sorry. They were 1 year younger. And her sister had polio, which caused one of her legs to be weaker than the other. And then she also had pronounced limp and wore a steel brace.
So what's weird is, for some reason, I thought that, like...
Cheers.
I already drank. The polio vaccine was already around, but apparently it only arrived in clinics in 1955.
Oh.
And actually, you know what's weird? I know someone with polio.
Do you?
And do you know where they got it? From the vaccine.
Oh.
Which I don't know you can get it from the vaccine.
Yeah, well, it is, like, isn't it partially live?
I guess, but... She's still like she's like, get the vaccine, get the vaccine, get the vaccine.
Well, yeah, because you know what? I mean, my mother also knows somebody who did not get it and wound up wheelchair bound. So
right. She has like a slight limp. That's it.
Yeah.
But she's like, get the vaccine.
I mean, it's also possible that like she was vaccinated and still got it after the fact.
Could be. You never know.
Anything's possible.
Right.
Because obviously it was quite pronounced or rampant at the time.
True.
So maybe the vaccination hadn't fully kicked in yet.
Could be. I mean, she's my age.
Oh.
Yeah. She got it. Yeah, she got it from the vaccine. But
weird.
It is really weird. She's actually a comedian. She makes fun of the fact that she has polio.
Oh, jeez.
But
I guess what's better material than yourself, right?
it's true. Of course. But
Yes.
yeah.
But, apparently the family had moved around throughout Louisiana. No, that's the wrong state. Indiana. There's an Anna in there.
And
part of
the
it.
East Coast.
Yes. And going to the East Coast is what fucked everybody up. Apparently, so the boys of the family would help the parents out. And, clearly their parents were good parents because they didn't want to take Sylvia and Jenny with them.
When we were younger, they're
Right.
15, 16.
They wanted them to be able to, one, be safe, because clearly, a carnival life is not exactly
No,
the
yeah.
safest situation.
Have an education.
Right, exactly. So when they would leave and do these tours, generally they would stay with their grandmother or some other relative. But in July of 1965, when Sylvia was 16 and Jenny was 15, the mother was arrested for shoplifting.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's right after that the father arranged for Jenny and Sylvia to go live with Gertrude Banaszewski? God damn it. I hate my own name because I can't pronounce it.
I think it's about right, yeah.
Banaszewski. Because that's when they decided to go east looking for work. And apparently Sylvia and Jenny already knew two of Gertrude's daughters from school.
Correct.
Paula and Stephanie. Gertrude apparently promised to look after Sylvia and Jenny as if they were her own daughters. Did you see that? Yeah. That didn't really work out.
It did for a while.
For
a week.
2.
Yeah.
Well, because, the father had agreed to send Gertrude $20 a week.
And which, honestly, was a good deal considering she only paid $55 in rent for a month.
Exactly. So she was making her rent and then
some.
some.
Oh, yeah.
Just to watch 2 girls. Now,
Exactly.
granted, she had to feed them.
She had 7 kids.
Yeah, of her own.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking 2 more really weren't a problem. Plus the fact that the 2 of them, even given Jenny's polio, they would go do odd jobs for people. So they were willing to make money. Matter of fact, I think one of the things that she got mad at Sylvia for doing was returning bottles.
Right. And honestly, if you look at Gertrude's history.
Well, I had that too, because I'm we need to talk about that.
I mean, look, when I talk about abusers' history and all that stuff, yes, she was abused. She had her parents had a horrendous relationship, and she saw her father die young.
Yes.
Which is awful.
Yeah, I think she was 10.
Yeah, and she was married 3 times, and she was abused.
Yes. She was married 3 times. She had another relationship with a 20-year-old.
Right.
And what's crazy, so it's not that she was just married 3 times. So she dropped out of school at 16.
Correct.
Married a guy that was 18. They were married for 10 years, and I think they had 3 kids.
Correct.
And then
4,
right. So they're married for 10 years, 4 kids. They get divorced. Shortly after that...
And he was abusive.
Yes. Shortly after that, she marries this other gentleman, and that lasts 3 months because he was abusive. And then they get divorced, and what does she do?
Go back to the other guy.
Yep. She remarries her first husband because I guess, I don't know,
she was used to him, maybe?
Glutton for punishment?
But if that's the only love you know...
Yes.
It's the only love you know.
Yep.
But it's no excuse.
No. And then they had 2 more children.
Yeah.
And then they got divorced again.
Correct.
And then she got involved with a 20-something-year-old. And she was 31 at the time, I think. So there was a significant age difference. And then they had a child. But they weren't married.
Right.
And I also read that apparently she was actually pregnant, 13 different times, and had 6 miscarriages. But from what I also read about her, she was a chain smoker.
And look, that's got to be completely, that's got to be hard.
Yes. Absolutely.
I can't imagine trying to get pregnant after having 1 miscarriage, and I give women credit
for trying, yeah. So She was asthmatic.
Mm.
She was a chain smoker. But what was really crazy is she was 5'6" and only 100 pounds. So clearly she was not taking very good care of
I'm
herself.
5'6.5". I can't imagine being 100 pounds.
I mean, like,
I wish I was 100 pounds.
no, you don't, because that means you're not healthy, right? So I'm thinking she wasn't taking very good care of herself, which could very well have led to the miscarriages as well. Because if you don't have, like, your body cannot sustain it,
Oh, yeah.
then, you know, not to say that it's like okay and not, you know, it doesn't affect you.
Completely.
But at the same time, some of that may have been her own whatever. Clearly downstairs they're making more pina coladas.
I just heard that. I was like,
first I didn't know what the hell I was hearing. So the father sends them to stay with Gertrude. And I'm going to pull you.
you're going to pull a me. Oh, hey, girl.
And so like the first 2 weeks, everything was fine. Sylvia was helping out with the housework. She hung out with the daughter Stephanie, and they listened to music and all this kind of stuff. They even went to Sunday school.
Yeah, I don't get it, dude.
Right?
I don't fucking get it.
Me neither. So by week 3, the $20 payments started arriving late. But like a day or two. We're not talking about weeks.
She was looking for an excuse.
Yeah, she
is
really
what
was.
I feel like.
So when that happened, in retaliation for the late payment that these children had absolutely zero control over.
She hit them with a paddle.
Yes, a 1/4-inch thick paddle.
Okay, so...
And what she said to them?
I don't know what she said to them, but I know people were hit with a paddle.
Yes, spankings and things like that.
That was the thing.
More common and more acceptable.
Fine. So maybe, and not that it's fine, but that was the thing maybe back then. Okay, so maybe it started out as like a, let me see what I can get away with.
Well, given the fact that what she said to them when she hit them was, well, I took care of you two little bitches for a week for nothing. So
Okay.
she was clearly not, you know, she wasn't taking care of them because
Of course not.
it was out of the goodness of her heart and she was a good person.
Of course not.
It was all for the money.
Of course.
And I think you're right. I think that she had now 9 children in her care, and you know she was abused, so she figured it was okay. Like this was, I guess, not. Why does every noise humanly possible in this world have to happen when we're recording? What the hell?
Well, so here, okay. So what I was trying to like psychologically go through everything. Sylvia was 16 when this all went on.
Yes,
Gertrude was 16.
when she got married.
My thought was, and also Paula was 16 and pregnant when this whole thing went on.
Yep.
Paula,
Quite a married man, by the way.
yes. Paula,
Yes, because she, you know, the upstanding family that Gertrude and her children were.
Paula is, if anyone doesn't know, which you probably don't, Paula is Gertrude's daughter.
Yes.
Her
oldest daughter.
Yes. My thought is maybe this was their way of punishing her or seeing their self through her and just being jealous.
Well, that's what I had found, was that it was like a lot of speculation that both Gertrude and Paula were jealous of Sylvia for...
And Sylvia was beautiful. If you look at like photos of her, she was beautiful. She looked lively.
Yep.
She had like the sparkle in her. Like, it really is such a tragic
story. No, everything is tragic about it. The whole damn thing. Even right through
so
like
sickening.
The trial.
Poor girl. Yeah.
Right? But this woman would find any excuse to beat the crap out of this girl. Like, they would even make them up, right? They would obviously beat her, but it was mostly her. Like, initially it was both of them, but the beatings weren't as severe. But then it moved on to mostly Sylvia.
Well, I think that like most abusers, like, go slowly to see what they can get away with.
Oh, yeah. And I think the reason they probably didn't go after Jenny as much, maybe they looked at Sylvia as a challenge. more so because she
Oh.
was fully capable. Like,
She
you
was-
know,
yeah.
Jenny had polio. Like, maybe it didn't.
Well, she was
Maybe they
beautiful.
had a
She was
modicum
capable. She
of
was, there was nothing like
something
she was
of morality.
healthy. Yeah, there
Yeah.
was something like about her. Yeah, I totally think that she was a challenge.
So, besides the beatings, they would also starve her. This was disgusting. They forced her to eat leftovers, which, okay, well, who doesn't eat leftovers, right? I was like, all right, that's no big deal, until I got to the part where they said that
So much.
she would make her eat spoiled food out of the garbage.
Till she vomited.
Oh, that was a hot dog incident. So, they found any reason to go after her. So, for example, Sylvia had claimed to have a boyfriend in California. And I started writing Gertie because I got tired of writing out Gertrude. She asked if she had ever, quote, done anything with a boy. So apparently Sylvia misunderstood what she meant.
Because she was so innocent.
Right. So she said, I guess so. And she goes on to say that...
That literally reminded me of myself. Because I was so stupid. I thought, like, going in a pool with a boy was like...
That you did something inappropriate. Yeah. So she tells Gertrude that she had gone skating and to a park with this boy, but she did admit that at one point she had been under the covers with him. Right? So Gertrude says, she asked her, she goes, why did you do that, Sylvia? And of course, Sylvia said, I don't know. Like,
I don't fucking know.
I just did it,
Felt
right?
good. Like, shit, we're just hanging.
Yeah, just cozy under the covers. So apparently, this bitch brings it up a couple of days later and makes a comment saying, you're certainly getting big in the stomach, Sylvia. It looks like you're going to have a baby. And again, Sylvia, being the innocent girl she was, thought that Gertrude was like joking around with her. And she said, yeah, it sure is getting big. I'm just going to have to go on a diet. So you could see, like, she was just so innocent and she didn't, I guess, believe in the horrors of human beings. But of course, it just got worse and worse. And then, this isn't even the worst part. Like, it's so bad. Gertie goes on to tell all the girls of the house that whenever they did something with a boy, they would be sure to have a baby. So,
oh my god, there was so many more kids in the world.
Yeah, right. And after saying this, she proceeds to then kick Sylvia in the genitals. And then Paula, the oldest daughter, who's pregnant, throws Sylvia off the chair and made some kind of comment like, oh, you're not fit to sit in a chair.
Yeah, Paula, who was 16.
And pregnant. Yeah. So she was forced to eat a hot dog that was overloaded with spices and condiments. And this was done to her by Gertie, Paula, and a neighborhood boy. So now we're already starting with bringing in outsiders, right? It's not bad enough that she's being abused by the people in the house, but now we've got other people. It made her throw up, of course, and she was forced to eat that.
Here's the thing, like, what disturbed me about this was not even that this was done to her. Yes, it was fucking terrible. The fact that so many people saw it and said
And
nothing.
did nothing. Yeah.
Said fucking nothing.
Yep. So, Sylvia had enough. So she decides that she's going to retaliate. And she only knows how to do that by spreading a rumor at school about Stephanie and Paula.
Yep.
Saying that they were prostitutes. Which, given the fact that Gertie has this obsession with inappropriate behavior with boys, I can understand why she would spread that rumor, but at the same time, like, I feel like you had to know that that was really going to piss her off, right?
Yeah, what was she doing?
So Stephanie finds out. She goes home and she punches Sylvia. But apparently, Sylvia starts crying. Stephanie starts crying. Now they all kind of feel like...
So, but I saw her, she hit her so hard she broke her wrist.
Oh, no, that was Paula.
Paula.
Yeah, so this is Stephanie. Stephanie
Okay.
punches her, right? But now Stephanie's boyfriend finds out. And that gentleman's...
Coy.
No, boy's name, not gentleman.
Boy's name is Coy.
The boy's name is Coy. Coy Hubbard. He comes over and beats the shit out of Sylvia. He slaps her, bangs her head into
What
a
a
wall,
bitch.
and flipped her onto the floor backwards.
Okay.
And then Gertie beats her again with a paddle because,
Right.
all that other shit wasn't enough. Moving right along. Paula, on one occasion, this is when she beat Sylvia so bad Paula broke her own wrist doing it. And then later used the casted arm to beat her again.
Have we gotten to the finger burning?
Nope. So, as we said, Gertie loves to accuse Sylvia of being promiscuous, and I feel like this was a plan. Like, I feel like she purposely did that to set up whatever alibi or whatever excuse she was going to use to justify her behavior, right? Because if she tells people, or if anybody asks, and she says, well, she was going around with all the neighborhood boys and whatever, and I was worried for her safety, and I needed to show her, like, and ensure that she wouldn't continue to do this kind of thing. Like, I feel like this was, like, premeditated for sure.
Or maybe.
At least that part,
yeah.
Right? Then she even has Jenny, which is just because there's a lot of names being thrown around, Sylvia's sister, is forced to hit Sylvia. And basically Gertie tells her, like, if she doesn't, that she's going to beat the crap out of her as well. And then the abuse just starts to get more widespread in terms of who is actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Who is actually performing it? Performing is not the right word.
Involved.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I did see something that, like, Sylvia and her sister Jenny had an older sister.
Yes.
And they met her in the park. And they said they were hungry, so, like, they brought them a sandwich.
Yeah. And the sister, one of Gertie's daughters, was with them.
Mm-hmm. So they ate the sandwich. And they never mentioned the abuse. But
I think they had prior. The sister's name was Diana.
okay.
They had mentioned it to her, but Diana thought that they were exaggerating.
Right. She did bring them a sandwich. They ate it. But they went back and, like, didn't say anything. But who was it? Gertrude.
Yeah, well, no, the daughter that was with them.
Stephanie.
Nope, not that one. I can't remember this one's
It was
name.
Stephanie.
Nope, it was. Oh Lord, hold on a moment. I have a lot of things going on here. Give me just a moment, please. Where is it? Oh, might be here. I'm lying. Where the hell is it? I know I have it.
Highlighted it all.
I did highlight a lot because there's a lot of information. Anyway, it was one of the other daughters. I can't remember what all of their names were because there were just too goddamn many of them. But she's with them, and then she tells Gertrude about this, and like, then Gertrude punishes her again.
They gave them scalding baths because they ate the fucking sandwich.
That's right. That's what it was.
They ate a sandwich, so she gave them scalding baths.
Marie was the other daughter.
And Sylvia fainted from the heat.
Oh wait. Going back to that one. So, she accused Sylvia of engaging in gluttony.
Mm-hmm.
And then she and Paula choked and bludgeoned her.
Yep.
And then they put her in the bath.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Gertrude would grab her and hit her head against the bathtub.
Yeah.
To wake her up after she had passed out.
After she passed out. Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Fucking asshole.
And then a man from the neighborhood, like, he eventually called the school.
Yes, because he said that there was a child there with sores all over her body. And yeah, so, well, wait, because she's not even out of school yet. We haven't gotten to
this
the part
all happened, this entire abuse, from, like, the time that she went to this, like, the house,
which was
to her death, was 3 months.
Yeah, July, right? So she ends up there in July.
And dies in August. I mean, October. Sorry. October.
Yeah. So 3 months.
That's disgusting.
Skipped over the one where is it? So they would use Sylvia as practice for judo.
Yep. As like a judo dummy.
Yeah. They would burn her with lit cigarettes over 100 times, severely injure her genitals, and do this all as entertainment.
Did you see the part where they forced her?
Yep. I was getting to that next. And I don't even know. I was sitting there at my table writing this out going, I don't even know. Like, I tried to look up the right terminology because
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, what happened was she was forced to strip naked in front of everyone in the living room, and in that case, I think it was like the neighborhood kids, the entire family that lived in the house,
and the neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah, and Gertrude forced her to use a glass soda bottle to masturbate, and that was to show Jenny what kind of girl Sylvia was. And like when I read that, and even the term masturbate, I'm like, no, because this is just not that. This is something else. It's just god awful. And it was after that, then she was forbidden from going to school because she stole a gym suit from the school because Gertie refused to get it for her, but she needed it for gym.
Yeah.
And so when she did steal the gym suit, then she was beaten for that. And then I wrote, go to page 5 of printout because I just gave up rewriting it. It was just too much. Yes. So again, Gertrude is focused on this whole evils of premarital sex. I'm thinking you should have probably kept Paula in the house a little bit more, yeah?
It was an excuse
It really was.
to abuse.
So she just hauled off and kicked this poor girl in her nether regions repeatedly. Would burn her fingertips with matches. She ended up beating Jenny with the police belt as well because she stole a single tennis shoe from the school to wear on her strong foot. But like we were talking about, here's the problem. They told their sister when they did see her, but they were so afraid. And we've talked about this before with other cases too, where they were so afraid to say anything to anybody because they were concerned that if it got back to her,
Of course.
you know, if somebody came there and they didn't
That's a
see
normal
anything,
reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
that
It was
nobody's gonna believe them.
reported. It was. I mean, look, this was a time where things weren't really followed up on,
No,
and it was reported, but things weren't like Someone called the school. School called her,
well, school came and didn't see any evidence.
and they called, and they said, and she was like, "Oh, she's a runaway.
Yeah,
A, B, and C," and then they were like, "Oh, okay," but nowadays it's not like that.
no.
Not at all.
And matter of fact,
which is good.
yes, during July and August, her parents would actually come back. I guess, you know, because it wasn't really that far. It wasn't like going from New York to California, right?
Yeah.
But when they visited, they never really saw any kind of signs of any abuse. One of the last times they had visited, or the last time they visited, was actually on October 5th. And they couldn't, it wasn't like they had time alone with their parents to tell them what was going on.
Right.
Because they were always in the presence of either Gertrude or one of the children. But what's worse is once the parents had left, she actually turned to Jenny and Sylvia and said, specifically to Sylvia, "What are you going to do now, Sylvia? Now they're gone." Like, taunting her. Like, you know that you're stuck here. There's nothing you could do about it. And I can't believe, though, like, Gertrude knew they were going to come back in a month.
Right.
Like, which leads me to believe she had, you know, and I think she did. I think what I found kind of hints at this. But I didn't know if it was what she planned to do with her was just kind of like dump her somewhere and either leave her to die or somebody would find her. And she had this whole plan of what she was going to tell everybody. And she even had Sylvia write a letter to that effect, basically saying that she had gotten involved with some boys from the neighborhood
boys, yep.
and run off and all this shit. And if you can believe it, it gets worse, right? So, just got to skip past my notes about Diana. So, like you said, there was the school, right? They had investigated.
Barely.
Yeah. There were immediate neighbors of the Benasuski family, Raymond and Phyllis Vermillion. I like that last name. And you know what it makes me think of? Beetlejuice. Anyway, sorry. Squirrel. Apparently the Vermillions witnessed Paula physically abusing Sylvia on both occasions had a black eye when they had gone to the house. And she was openly boasting about her mistreatment of the child. So when they had gone to the house for the second time, they actually commented that she appeared extremely meek and somewhat zombified in nature. But they never reported it. And again, I understand that. I think that for the time, it wasn't that long ago, but like I feel like people kind of, I don't want to say minded their business.
Totally.
But it was very much like,
Of course
you know,
they did.
this is your children or the children that you're in charge of caring for, and you know what's best for them.
Of
and,
course.
you know, everybody mind your damn business.
Yeah.
So, this is just horrible. Apparently, because of all of this brutality and the constant abuse, now we're just into October, right? She actually became incontinent over time.
I think it was because she was kicked in the crotch so many times.
Yeah, and the abdomen.
Yeah.
And even the beatings on the back
Yeah.
could affect your kidneys.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, like, this repeated
And then
abuse.
she was beat for not being able to, like, hold her urine.
Yeah. So, and she was denied access to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So,
Fucking
she wasn't allowed to use the bathroom, meaning that, obviously, she then wet herself.
Mm-hmm.
And as a form of punishment for her incontinence, on October 6th, she threw her in the basement and tied her up, where she was often kept naked, rarely fed, and frequently deprived of water. Sometimes she was even tied to the railing of the basement stairs where her feet barely touched the floor. Now, I can't. She would also falsely tell the other children in the house that Sylvia was making really horrible comments about them,
Mm-hmm.
hoping that they would then beat her.
Yeah.
So she wasn't directly instructing them to do it, but she was hoping to egg them on into doing it. One time she held a knife over Sylvia and said, "Fight me back," to which Sylvia said she didn't know how to fight. And so Gertrude, and I didn't understand this one, inflicted a light scour wound. I'm assuming she just like scraped her with the knife then. Neighborhood children were occasionally charged 5 cents a
5
piece
cents.
to see the quote-unquote display of Likens' body and to humiliate, beat, scold, burn, and ultimately mutilate her. Throughout her captivity in the basement, Gertrude frequently had her children and neighborhood children come in, restrain and gag her before placing her in a bathtub filled with scalding water and then rubbing salt in her wounds.
Here's the thing. When I was like 3, my mom used to get really mad at me because I used to like move the garbage cans and play with the ants, like the ants around there. I can't imagine doing that to a living thing.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I'm not a big fan of slugs personally.
I can't kill anything.
No.
I can't.
People are like, pour beer on them, pour salt on them. I'm like,
I can't.
no.
I can't.
Absolutely fucking not.
I absolutely can't.
Like, if there's a stinging flying insect,
I can't even do that.
I try to avoid
I
doing
have
it.
literally trapped bees in my hand.
Yes, but like we've had giant yellow jackets and wasps in our office.
I've gotten stung.
But I can't, like, in the office, I can't very well be like, all right, everybody get out so I can save this thing. I've chased it with a broom out of the office.
I just can't. Like,
Me neither. I don't know how people do
and then I've also seen people like have no qualms about just stomping something, and I'm like, how do you do that? It's alive.
I don't know. I can't even, I feel bad taking bushes out.
Me too.
This is why I'm a witch. Because, you know.
I just don't, I don't understand.
Me neither. So, anyhow, there's still more. In case you weren't nauseous enough yet.
This is a kid.
Yes. Get this. Gertrude and her 12-year-old son, John Jr.,
Jesus Christ,
rubbed urine and feces from the 1-year-old son's diaper into Likens' mouth. Sylvia, to be clear. And then they gave her a cup half filled with water and said that that was all she was going to get for the rest of the day. So now we fast forward a little bit to the 22nd of October. John again offers to allow her to eat a bowl of soup with her fingers and then takes it away.
So nice.
And at this point, she's already, like, seriously malnourished. Eventually, Gertrude lets her sleep upstairs on the condition that she doesn't wet herself, which...
Of course
she already knew that wasn't going to happen. She already knew that...
This girl's 16.
This was literally like, here, I'll give you a little bit of comfort before I beat the shit out of you again. So, of course, Sylvia asked her sister to please give her a glass of water before she fell asleep. Except we all know what happens when you drink water before you go to bed.
There's a pee.
Yes. So, again, we're back to the soda bottle, and I'm not going to go there again because it's just, but more entertainment for the other children in the house. Great role model. Gertrude has Sylvia come to the kitchen. This is all in the same day. Ordered her to strip naked, and then saying to her, "You have branded my daughters, now I'm going to brand you." And she begins to carve the words, "I'm a prostitute and proud of it," into Sylvia's abdomen with a heated needle. But she can't do it. Was she feeling sorry? Apparently that was part of her, I think in her defense, she tried to say like, certain things she couldn't do. Yeah,
right.
Bullshit.
Okay. No, she didn't do any of it.
Yeah.
Give me a fucking break.
So
she had someone else do it.
She ends up instructing one of the neighborhood children, another 14-year-old boy, Richard Dean Hobbs, to finish etching the words into Sylvia's abdomen, and Gertrude just fucks off and takes Jenny to the grocery store. Awesome. Then 14-year-old Hobbs and 10-year-old Shirley Baniszewski take Sylvia into the basement, and they use an anchor bolt to attempt to burn the letter S underneath Sylvia's left breast. Although they applied one section of the loop backwards, and the deep burn scar ended up resembling the number 3. Not that it matters what the fuck it was, but yeah. Then Gertrude sat there and said to her, "You'll never be able to get married because of the words on your stomach." And, she said to her, "Sylvia, what are you going to do now? You can't get married now. What are you going to do?" And of course, Sylvia just, there's nothing I can do. And in case all of that wasn't enough, Gertrude forces her to show the inscription and the burns to neighborhood children, and Gertrude told them that she had gotten this at a sex party. Yeah. It was that night when Sylvia said to her sister, "Jenny, I know you don't want me to die, but I'm going to die. I can tell it." And
what 16-year-old should have to go through that?
No, none.
Like,
none.
I know I'm gonna die.
None.
So here's what's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. Like, 16.
Mm-hmm.
You should be having crushes on boys and
that's what she was doing at the beginning.
And like
singing to the Beatles.
Yeah, this is such bullshit.
So it was the next day that Gertrude has her write this letter, and it's written basically to mislead the parents and frame a group of anonymous local boys for extensively abusing and mutilating her after she had initially agreed to engage in sexual relations with them before they inflicted the extreme abuse and torture upon her body. Bullshit. And so that's when she planned, like, basically she had her write this letter because they were just going to, her 12-year-old son, and Sylvia's sister, she was going to use the two of them to fuck off with her to the woods and just leave her there to die. Yeah. So she finishes writing the letter. Sylvia is then again tied to the stair railing downstairs in the basement, offered crackers to eat, but she refuses them, saying, "Give it to the dog, I don't want it." In response, Gertrude forces her to eat the crackers, and then they beat her around the stomach. Because, why not? It makes no fucking sense. Apparently she tried to escape.
Yeah.
So this is between the 25th and the 26th.
So I saw that Gertrude basically stomped on her head.
Yeah. That was after the second attempt.
And that was basically what caused her death.
Yeah. And what's crazy is, so it doesn't stop there. It really doesn't, right? So she heard this whole plan about leaving her in the woods. Pardon me. She tries to get out the front door. She can't. Gertrude catches her, right? Again, she's been given crackers to eat. I don't know why they bothered feeding her. I really don't. Like, other than just humiliating her.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to realize that she was that close to death. I mean, I don't understand. But anyway, she was given the crackers. She wasn't able to eat them, obviously. And then Gertrude forced the crackers into her mouth and then beat her about the face with a curtain rod until sections of the rod were bent into right angles. And then after Gertrude finished, Coy the boy took over and basically knocked her unconscious.
I truly can't imagine. Like, I can't.
I don't understand how. And first of all, I don't understand how anybody can do this.
I feel like any kid, I feel like I would just take them in. Like, I feel like I can't imagine doing that to any child. Like,
and it's not even just so it's
why?
that's horrible, right? What she did to Sylvia was horrible, beyond horrible. What she essentially did to the other children, both in the house and the neighborhood children, have them watch, have them actually commit some of the torture too.
I know she went through abuse and stuff. I feel like not enough
to warrant this,
unless she was like a sociopath or a psychopath.
She clearly had to be, but she was considered mentally stable enough to stand trial.
I mean, many psychopaths are, but like I feel like I just can't even ever imagine. Like, it's so horrendous.
Like, I expected this to be spread out over years.
3 months.
But it's 3 months. Again, so now Sylvia's back in the basement. And she tries to get the attention of neighbors by screaming for help, which I can't even believe she was able to do. Yeah. And hitting the walls of the basement with a shovel. One of the neighbors directly next to them actually did inform police that she had heard the desperate commotion and that she had identified the sources emanating from the basement, but that as the noise had suddenly ceased at approximately 3 a.m., she decided not to inform the police about the disturbance. If you hear someone screaming from a basement, even if you don't think it's criminal in nature, somebody could have fallen down the stairs and need help.
Screaming for more than a minute. Like, more than 30 seconds, I'm calling the police.
Yeah, like at that hour, something clearly is going on. So, she's still alive at this point, right? Now it's the 26th. At this point, she's unable to speak. She can't move her arms or legs in any kind of normal motion. Gertrude brings her into the kitchen, gets her propped up against the wall, and again attempts to feed her a donut and a glass of milk. But she's unable to actually like take the milk and pick it up and drink it. So back to the basement she goes. Sylvia then becomes delirious. Paula asked her to recite the English alphabet, and she was only able to get up to D at that point. She couldn't get up. Paula verbally threatened to either stand up or... Let me try that again, because that didn't make much sense. Paula threatened her and said either stand up or she would inflict a long jump on her.
Nice.
And then Gertrude ordered Sylvia, who had at this point defecated on herself, that she had to clean herself up. Clearly, she wasn't capable of doing that because she couldn't even drink.
That's a D?
Yeah. Or like drink a glass of milk.
Right.
That afternoon, Gertrude gets everyone together and gathers them up in the basement. And at this point, Sylvia's trying, like, she's pointing as best she can to each person, and she's like naming them. So I think, I don't know, maybe she was like, she knew she was going to die, and I almost wonder if like she was like putting a curse on them. And you know what? If we believe in that kind of stuff, it's kind of interesting when you look further into how things progress in their lives.
Right.
Okay. So she starts saying, "You're Ricky," and "You're Gertie." And then, of course, you know, Gertie's like, "Shut up, you know who I am." She tries to eat a rotten pear that somebody had given her to eat. And she said she could feel the looseness in her teeth. But Jenny turns around and says, "Don't you remember, Sylvia? Your front tooth was knocked out when you were 7. And then she leaves and goes off to do gardening chores for neighbors in the area, which was a very odd thing to me. Like, it's your sister. And I understand that you're afraid of being beaten. I get that.
Right.
But, like, you just kind of fucked off. But anyway. So John, again, 12 years old, decides he's going to give Sylvia a bath with a garden hose that another neighbor, Randy Lepper, had been asked to bring over by Gertrude. She again attempts to exit the basement, but collapsed before she could reach the stairs.
Yeah.
And this is when Gertrude
That's when I thought she was trying to like escape. Yeah.
Yeah. So Richard Hobbs comes back to the residence, goes down to the basement, but he slips on the stairs and When he lands, he discovers Stephanie crying and cuddling Sylvia's emaciated and lacerated body after she had been ordered by her mother to clean Sylvia. So I feel like Stephanie probably was the only one with any moral compass
Well, but probably Jenny
and
too.
feelings. Yeah,
But-
obviously. I'm talking about other than...
Yeah, I like, even the neighborhood kids, even Richard Hobbs, because it said that he gave her a warm bath and dressed her in clean clothes.
Yes, he ended up helping her.
And he was the one, I think, that helped brand her with like I'm a whore or whatever.
Yeah,
it
but
was.
he said he did it like really lightly.
But I feel like
I mean, not that it makes it any better.
no, but I feel like some of them did it for like that. They joined in like that group mentality.
Yeah.
But I feel like they did it out of like guilt.
What,
And-
the bath thing and all
Yeah,
that?
the guilt,
Oh, yeah.
and I feel like they felt probably bad from the beginning, but they did it because maybe either they were afraid or like
Yeah, I feel like those two, Stephanie and
but none of them
Richard.
were okay with stepping up and
saying
speaking out,
anything. Yeah. I
which
mean, listen, this kid could have gone
sucks.
home and said, do you know what is going on over there?
Right, I don't think any of them expected her to die.
No, I don't think so, because actually, as a matter of fact, right, so they go give her the bath, and they said they were going to put her in new clothes and whatever, and they bring her up to the mattress where she ends up later passing. Sylvia at that point had muttered her final wish that Daddy was here, and that Stephanie would take her home, and it was at that point that Stephanie then looked at her younger sister Shirley and said, oh, she'll be all right, I guess thinking that, like, I don't know what she was thinking, honestly. But when she realized that Sylvia was not breathing, she did attempt to give her mouth to mouth. And Gertie, in typical bitch fashion, said to everybody that Sylvia was faking it. So much so that she actually beat Sylvia's lifeless corpse with a book, yelling "faker."
Maybe, and I'm certainly not sticking up for her. Maybe she was like in denial, like, shit.
Oh,
what
I'm
did I
sure.
do? Yeah, like
I'm sure
you're
she was.
faking. Like, oh my god.
So at that point, she panics, tells Richard Hobbs to go call the police from a nearby payphone. Now, this is kind of interesting, right? So the cops get there at about 6:30. She takes the officers upstairs, and they find her extensively bludgeoned and mutilated body lying upon a soiled mattress in the bedroom. It's at this point she gives them the letter, because now she's got to play out her
Yep.
whole bullshit,
Her whole thing,
right?
yeah.
She didn't expect this girl to die in her house.
Of course not.
Saying that Sylvia had earlier run away from her home with several teenage boys before returning to her house earlier that afternoon, bare-breasted and clutching the note.
Unbelievable.
Paula says that Sylvia's death was meant to happen, and then she glances in Jenny's direction and calmly states, if you want to live with us, Jenny, we'll treat you like our own sister. Fuck no. First of all, I've been living with you. I know what you do when you say you're going to treat like your own. So Jenny obviously had been given very specific instructions by Gertrude of what to say to the police, right? So she tells them that, but then apparently she must have gotten close to one of them, close enough to be able to whisper and say, you get me out of here and I'll tell you everything.
Yeah, she gave him a good statement.
Yeah. So the formal statement that was provided by Jenny prompted the officers to arrest Gertrude, Paula, Stephanie, and John.
And Coy.
Yes.
Hold on, Richard.
Richard and Coy were arrested later on that day.
And then 5 neighborhood kids.
Yes. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Uh-huh. And of course, Gertrude is denying all of it. Every last bit of it. She basically accused her own pregnant daughter of doing all of it.
Of course she did.
It was Paula and Coy that had done, Paula did most of the damage and Coy did a lot of the beating. Yeah, sure. Apparently Paula showed no remorse.
Interesting.
Where Stephanie, like I said, like we were talking, that Stephanie seemed to at least sort of kind of give a shit. Even if it was too
younger.
late.
I mean, maybe Paula was like
Very jealous.
Yeah.
I think that Paula may have thought, now she's pregnant. She's going to have a child. She's 17.
Mm-hmm.
And she may have looked at it like, now I'm going to have this kid and I'm not going to have a life. And this girl is just a year younger than me and she has her whole life ahead of her
It's
and
just
whatever.
so stupid to think.
Well, that's your own dumbass fault. And look, this is from somebody who had a child at 17, just saying, so there's that. I didn't beat the shit out of anybody.
But it's stupid to think.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? I could see where somebody might look at it that way. You know what I mean? Like, and clearly Gertrude was jealous of this girl. And
Right.
Gertrude is in her 30s.
Idiot.
You're not going to compare to a 15, 16-year-old girl. Like, it's just,
No,
what is wrong with you?
Of course not.
Ugh. Anyway.
So, her autopsy.
Yes.
This is 3 months.
This is where one of the things that I
This
read,
is what made me nauseous. 150 wounds, at least. There was a hole in her wrist that almost went to the bone.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah. The cause of death was ruled a subdural hematoma, which is basically like blunt force trauma.
Yeah.
To the head.
Which was when Sylvia's
Basically stomped on her head.
Stomped on her, yeah.
Alongside shock and a severe malnourishment.
Yes. And extensive muscle and nerve damage.
Yes.
Her vaginal cavity was swollen almost completely shut.
Probably, yeah.
All of her fingernails were
Broken.
broken backwards. Like, that makes I know it's like it's the most minor of all the things.
No, but me too.
Endured. But that makes my
I
ass clench.
literally find my nails all the way down.
Yeah.
And the thought of that, like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of the external layers of skin on her face, breasts, neck, and right knee had peeled or receded.
That's from dehydration.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. And apparently she had also bitten through her lips, partially severing sections of them from her face. Fantastic. So what's interesting is, right, so the cops showed up at 6:30, and I'm sure that, who knows how long it took them to get her to the autopsy, but according to the coroner, rigor mortis had fully developed at the time of the discovery of her body, indicating that she had been deceased for up to 8 hours.
Yep.
So that means
they took a while.
They waited.
Yeah.
They waited quite a while.
They said she washed her body in rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
As if that was going to do anything.
Yeah. She was cleaning her wounds to try and administer first aid. Oh, honey, she's got a lot more problems than just wounds.
Yes.
I kind of skipped ahead to the indictments.
Mm-hmm.
The Marion County grand jury returned first-degree murder indictments against Gertrude and 2 of her 3 oldest children, being Paula and John. They also indicted Richard Hobbs and Coy Hubbard. All were charged with having repeatedly struck, beaten, kicked, and otherwise inflicting a combination of fatal injuries to Sylvia Likens with premeditated malice. Interestingly, and this is where I think that Stephanie did have some remorse. Yes, I'm sure some of this was to
She was
save herself.
Yeah.
But she was released from custody upon a writ of habeas corpus bond, and her attorney had actually successfully contended the state had insufficient evidence to support any murder or combination of fatal injury charges against her. She actually waived her immunity from any potential impending prosecution while agreeing to testify against her family and any other individuals charged with abusing and murdering Likens. So clearly, at least she was taking responsibility, like, in some fashion.
Right.
For her family members.
I did see also that Jenny turned state's witness.
Yeah.
Like, I know she did, like, participate a little bit, but they said that, like, they would waive anything if she...
Well, yeah, because, I mean, truthfully, she was also doing it under duress. It wasn't like
Correct.
she had a choice.
Yeah.
From what we know, and granted, this is focused primarily on Sylvia.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I'm assuming she didn't beat her own children. I don't get that feeling.
No.
Right? I think it was just Sylvia and then Jenny once in a while.
Yeah.
So what was interesting too is they decided to try all of them at the same time. Like, it wasn't separate court cases.
Right.
And the reason they did that was because basically the prosecution attorneys felt that the jury could not get a full picture without having them all involved.
Yeah.
That, you needed all of them in the room, because it wasn't like one person did one thing, one person did something else, and then the third person did another thing. They all participated together. And there was coercion on the part of Gertie to get, not so much maybe Paula, but some of the other people to do these things. So they needed that. What I thought was really crazy is that they actually retried them. Right? So they were convicted. And Gertie had been given like a 20-year sentence, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But then this was crazy because, hold on, I just need to flip the page.
Was that legal at that time?
Well, so the reason they were able to do it, so first of all, in the first trial, which ended in 1966, the jury deliberated for 8 hours, and they found Gertrude guilty of first-degree murder and recommended a sentence of life imprisonment. Paula was found guilty of second-degree murder, and Hobbs, Hubbard, and John Baniszewski were found guilty of manslaughter. So, on May 25th, Paula and Gertrude were formally sentenced. Right?
Right.
I hope that didn't sound like formerly sentenced. It's formally.
I got it.
God, at least somebody gets me. However, in 1970, the Indiana Supreme Court reversed the convictions of Gertrude and Paula Baniszewski on the basis that Judge Saul Isaac Reb had denied repeatedly submitted motions by their defense counsel at the original trial for both a change of venue and separate trials.
That's why they did it. Okay.
Yes. And the ruling further stated that the circumstances regarding the prejudicial atmosphere created during their initial trial, due to the extensive news media publicity surrounding the case, impeded any chance of either appellant receiving a fair trial. And we've heard this before with other court cases.
Right.
Like,
I could have sworn double jeopardy was in play by then. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, no, but see, here's the thing, and back then I could really understand, right? Because you didn't have the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It may have made national news, but generally things didn't spread as quickly or as far. Particularly not as they do today. Pardon me. So I can kind of understand the change of venue. Today, I feel like there's no point.
Right.
Because information spreads so quickly that, like, everybody knows about everything. So there's like, what's the point? But yeah, so the pair were retried. Paula opted to plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter rather than face a retrial. She was sentenced to serve a term between 2 and 21 years. That's where that was from. 2 and 20 years.
Yeah.
Bitch, Gertie got the same fucking sentence. As she should.
She's out though.
She's dead now.
Well, yeah, but she was out.
So she does get paroled. What I find, so this is what I was saying about when, and I'm not trying to make light of it. And I'm not one to necessarily believe in like curses per se, but I feel like if there's enough intent, I think that maybe it's possible. I mean, look, I love Salem, and there's a whole thing about, like, I don't know if I'm sure you've heard about it, about all the sheriffs, like Salem does not have its own sheriff because of a curse put on the sheriff at the time and all subsequent sheriffs of Salem Village.
Correcto.
That they basically, like, their hearts would explode. And
Correct.
every single one of them died of a heart attack. And so they just said, fuck this shit.
And
And they stopped having a sheriff.
I'm not doing this anymore.
But the reason I say that is, as I went through reading all of this, Paula is released in 1985. She goes to Iowa. She never accepts any responsibility for any of this. But she dies of lung cancer 5 years later at the age of 61. Okay? Then I'm reading further down, and like I'm skipping over some of this because I think this is going to be probably one of our longer episodes. So, and there were a lot of name changes. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, didn't somebody end up, maybe I'm confusing things. I feel like there was somebody that went off to teach in a school, they changed their name and they got found out. That was the case? Yeah. So, sorry. Paula assumed a new identity, and she worked as an aide to a school counselor for 14 years in Iowa. right? She changed her name to Paula Pace. She was concealing the truth regarding her criminal history when applying for the position. She was fired in 2012 when the school discovered her true identity, right? She did marry and had 2 children, but the baby she had had when she was 17...
Went up for adoption. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. The murder charges initially filed against Stephanie were ultimately dropped after she agreed to turn state's evidence against other defendants. She moved to Florida. She later married, had several children.
I mean, part of me feels like these people, like Paula, whatever, even though she was a fucking asshole, they were still children at the time. 17, 18.
I mean, yes, but I feel like...
If I think, like, if my mother... I mean, my mom would never do that. But, like, my mother did, like, you know, whatever, and I was brought up in a fucked up
house.
Yeah, like, who knows? Like, you're so young at 18 and 17, and I'm a completely different person from that age.
Yeah, but I also think that again, given the time period, right? Not that it was that long ago, but even 17, 18 was... I feel like 17 and 18-year-olds now are a lot more immature than 17 and 18-year-olds in the 50s.
I mean, yes, maybe they were faking it, but, like, I also feel like, was I mature then? Yes, but
not completely.
I'm also a different person. And
absolutely.
I feel like, would I still want to be punished for the decisions I made at that age? Hell no.
Well, but that can also be true of anybody at any point in life, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, if I murdered someone, that's different.
Well, and clearly she had a lot to do with it.
Yeah. But like...
Yeah.
I don't know, it was like a weird group mentality and like...
Oh, yeah, it was a mob mentality for sure.
Yeah, it's like... I don't know, and it's also her mom. Like, there's a weird psychiatry to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. So, Marie, Shirley, and James were placed in foster care. And all 3 of their surnames were legally changed to Blake in the late 1960s after their father regained custody. Marie later married Marie Shelton, which I'm assuming is her married name. I can't talk. She died of natural causes on June 8th, 2017 at the age of 62. Super young. Dennis Lee Wright, the one that was with the 20-year-old, 20-something, he is adopted. He dies at the age of 47. Wait. Just Richard Hobbs dies of lung cancer in 1972 at the age of 21. Okay?
That's pretty fucking young for lung cancer.
Less than 4 years after his release. He also was known to have suffered at least one nervous breakdown. Coy Hubbard stayed in Indiana and never attempted to change his name. He did continue to commit criminal offenses on a relatively regular basis.
Real criminal, okay.
He died of a heart attack at the age of 56. Okay? John Benezuski Jr., his name was changed to John Blake, and he died of diabetes at the age of 52. Another young one, right? Keep going. We have Anna Ruth Sisko, Judy Darlene Duke, Michael John Monroe, Darlene McGuire, and Randy Gordon Lepper. They were also the neighborhood kids that were charged. But apparently those charges were eventually dropped. Sisko died on October 23rd, 1996 at the age of 44. Okay?
Before the thong song?
Lepper, right? Randy Lepper, who had visibly smirked as he testified to having hit Likens on up to 40 separate occasions, died at the age of 56.
Alright, well, you can fuck off. Alright.
Jenny died at the age of 54. Why is everyone dying so young? Everyone that surrounded this girl died really freaking young.
Interesting.
And I know that just sounds like a weird thing to say, but everyone.
What did you find for the haunting?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Because, well, okay, so first of all, just so you know, because I had to look at the house, right? They knocked the house down, what was it, 2009?
Yeah, 3850 East
New York Street.
Indianapolis, Indiana.
So she
Did you get the video I sent you?
no.
Okay, but I sent you on TikTok.
Oh, was that the one about the ghost?
On TikTok?
Possibly?
I sent you
no.
on TikTok today.
Oh shit! I didn't have a chance to look at it.
Probably not. Okay, so there was only a bit, and honestly, the most of the stuff that I found was on TikTok.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't find shit because, well, first of all, so what I was saying was the house was knocked down. Now it's a parking lot for the church.
Correct. Yeah.
Slightly ironic.
I just wrote empty lot.
Yes.
So I did see like a YouTube video for Carlos Coy 135. There was something they said someone shouted him out and said like, oh, if you hear the audio, you hear screaming, blah blah blah.
I think I did see this.
It sounded out like to me, like neighborhood screaming.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't, but I can't rule it out because he was outside.
Yeah. Well, there's that. And was that the one with the like? It looked like somebody was in the window.
Yes, and I kept pausing it and then like rewinding it, pausing it, rewinding
well,
it.
because I saw
and I was
one.
like, I can't slow it down, and I was like bugging out.
Yeah, trying to do that on TikTok is a real pain.
It's real fucking pain in the ass.
But I saw when they were doing that one, I saw like when they went around I don't know if it was the back of the house, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There appeared to be something in one of the upper windows, except, and it's funny because I paid attention to the cloud that was in the sky, and I think it was a reflection of the cloud. But again, because I couldn't
That
stop
also
it.
is there like I was like, is there like a hole in the roof? And I was like, it looks like it's moving. I was like bugging out.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It was strange, yeah.
So the only thing I did find was this gentleman by the name of Kyle J. Woods. And it's not anything like voices or seeing any kind of shadows or anything like that. He had been wanting to go there and kind of like investigate the area for a long time, and just he didn't have the funds, and it was just a series of things that happened that like enabled him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, for example, and again, some people may say it's just coincidence or whatever, but like he was saying about how you know, he does say that some people have claimed to see her ghost hanging around by the house when it was still standing, obviously. So she died October 26th and was buried Halloween weekend. So supposedly a lot of people see her ghost, spirit, whatever around that time. A lot of people just see things around that time because it is Halloween.
Mm-hmm. The veil is thin.
Yeah. So, where is it? Sorry.
No, I saw something that a lot of people heard, like part of the reason that they ripped down the house, and that was on TikTok actually, like a lot of comments on the videos were, oh, I lived up a block from the house, I live like 2 miles from the house, or this and that, and we would go sit out there and we would hear screams in the house.
I wouldn't.
And it was like we grew up around there, and this like that was our local haunted house, and we would hear screams from there, and then eventually they ripped it down.
Well, I mean that's definitely a good thing. So this gentleman, like I was saying, he kind of like wished he didn't have the money to go to Indianapolis, so he kind of just did one of those like in passing kind of, you know, I'd love for something to happen that I have money to go do this. And he gets a check like the next day in the mail that he wasn't expecting for any reason. Then he's talking about how he goes to Indianapolis and he's in the parking lot. And so there's a movie based on...
I did see that, yeah.
Based on her story. And it's called The Girl Next Door.
Which I wanted to see, but I also don't want to see.
I know. So apparently he's in a parking lot and he starts to drive away. And he had seen this bag that looked like a Christmas bag, like a gift bag, and he thought it was strange, and he just kind of like disregarded it for a moment, goes to back up and leave, and he said he was suddenly overcome with a strange sensation. He stopped the car, backed it up, went to go grab the bag, and it turned out that in the bag was someone's entire collection of DVDs. But the strangest thing, sitting on the very top of the discarded stack, was a copy of The Girl Next Door. So first he thought maybe like somebody was playing a joke, but he couldn't figure out like how anybody would even know to do that, like what his motives were, so to speak. he did want to, yeah, and like some of these things are just random. Like, he happened to go to some kind of like I guess like a flea market or whatever, and he had this toy that he had as a kid called Crazy Yikes, and he'd been trying to find it again, and he ended up finding it. And when he looked at where it was made, it's made like in the same town, right? Actually, a matter of fact, the warehouse or the manufacturing site is actually in the same street as Sylvia's memorial. So like it was all these different weird things that were happening that like connected him to her situation and her story. So he had also mentioned that he had gone to her grave and he had decided to do a tarot card deal. It was a tarot card deck that a friend had given him, but it was getting late, so he kind of like dealt up. He returned the cards to the box. Sorry, I had to find it. He goes back to his car. He leaves, and a few days later, he picks up the deck again. Right? He remembered that he had intended to do this. So curious to see what the 3 cards were, he retrieved the deck from his glove compartment, and he said, when I saw the bottom card, or the first card he would have pulled, he paused. It didn't seem like the one I remembered glancing at before I put the cards away while at the cemetery. It was the High Priest.
Oh.
Ironically, it was the one that dealt specifically with communication between the supernatural world and that of man. Then he goes to the next one, Justice. And then finally, the 3rd card was the 8 of Swords. That one shows a woman with her arms tied tightly behind her. She doesn't resist, she does not resist giving and willingly to her captors, awaiting whatever punishment is about to be brought upon her. He says, ironic, I thought almost too ironic. If you don't think so, he gives a few examples of the card itself so you can like look it up. So if you're curious, that would definitely be a good idea. But I guess he just found it very eerie which cards came out, given what he was going to read. Again, I mean, I've read tarot cards. I've had enough tarot card readings, so I clearly am a believer in that.
Same.
A lot of people may not be.
Same.
You know, because a lot of things are interpretation.
Agreed.
So, but that's it. And I couldn't find anything else. I mean, you found more than I did.
I had to like dive deep into TikTok, to be honest.
Well,
thank God for TikTok.
Now we can go downstairs and tell everybody our story.
We're gonna go party downstairs.
Oh yes,
because we needed something bright after this horrendous.
I think I need a nap.
Huh?
What?
Huh?
I need a nap. We don't know what we're doing next week, do we?
Are we gonna do Urban?
No, that's gonna be the following week.
Scheiße.
All right, we're all gonna be surprised.
I will figure it out.
Yeah, she's the content person usually.
Maybe I'll figure it.
We'll find something. We could go downstairs and do a poll.
Survey?
Yeah.
Help!
What do they want to hear about?
Help!
I need somebody. I think we did that song. I think I sang that once before already.
And more pina colada.
Exactly. All right, so that's it for today. Apologies if it was a little bit more disjointed than we normally are, but it was a very gruesome.
That was fucking terrible.
Affecting topic.
Honestly, why I could never be a CPS worker, because I'd be like a boondock saint and go fucking kill somebody.
Yes. I think you need to put like a trigger warning.
Yeah.
Some kind of warning on this. I mean, people kind of know, I guess, what to expect because it is true crime.
Yeah, but this was fucking terrible.
Yeah, this was really bad. So anyway, yes, have a wonderful whatever the hell it is you're doing. We're gonna go drink more pina coladas and
party.
Yay!